about my experiences as a worker working with these people. So what we'll do is we'll have that discussion. Who knows how long it will go for? I hope we have enough people tuning in. Avery, we've got Avery over here managing and organising the system as well. All seems to be going well to this point, Avery.
At the moment.
That's a bonus. I've also organised the sound a little bit differently, so everybody hopefully will be heard as opposed to last time. So I guess what we'll start with is so we want to look at tonight what is helpful and what is unhelpful when we're working with the child protection system. And I guess the first thing we need to look at is that when people enter this system, they have no idea about what it looks like. Well, actually, you might, because you've got a bit of a history around that, and you can talk a little bit about that if you wish. But for those people that don't, or have never encountered the system before and never expected to, it's a nightmare because you don't know what to do, you don't know how to respond.
One quick thing, there was a slight hiccup there, and we wouldn't have got the intro for Stacey and Frank.
Oh right, well that's Stacey and that one's Frank.
No, that's Stacey.
That's that one's Stacey. Right at this moment, everybody's really confused about who they are, which is really interesting.
Must be the stuff that
and I'm Tony, for those of you that don't know. So when I guess we need to start like at the beginning. So when you enter this system and when kids are removed from you, regardless of where you might have been, can you reflect back on what that experience was like?
Well, they say the kids were probably traumatised. I'd say the parents were traumatised too.
Good point. Excellent.
Very traumatised because when you get confronted with that sort of thing and you're at work and you're fighting to get over to save your kids, that's very traumatising.
Yeah.
At least, and then you have to go through all the details of trying to reassure your children or child or children's, depending on the crew, that you have to go. It's for good. You'll be home tomorrow. Tell them a few little lies just to calm them down. Yeah,
but you say that's a good point, Frank, because I just wonder whether people want to tell their kids that they're coming home soon. That
reassure them,
feel
a bit better.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand.
Yeah.
Not all kids, not unless they're 13, 14, they may have some idea.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about 3 or 5 or even younger, newborns being taken straight from their mother, that's even worse.
Yeah, and the expectation is that they will come home as soon as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. But you're right.
They say it's only overnight or short term, a couple of weeks maybe.
Yeah.
And it turns into 6 months, 12
Can you
months.
remember that? Can you remember that traumatisation?
Yeah, they arrested my partner, then took my children.
Oh, so you lost your partner at the same time?
Yes.
That's your kids.
You posed a risk to the other.
So I was trying to calm my children down because their dad's being taken, and then I had to calm my children down because they were being taken.
Oh my
So you
God.
got hit with a double whammy.
I did, yeah.
What was that experience like for you?
I think I lost the plot in a sense.
I don't understand why.
I didn't know how to deal with that at all. My emotions were just everywhere, and I was calm, I was angry, I was everything, and all of that was used against me because apparently you're not meant to be part psycho when your kids are removed. You're meant to be calm and you're meant to just let them sort of take the kids. The only thing that I did have going for me was that I didn't let them take my children into care. I sent them to the grandparents.
Yeah, you did what, sorry?
I didn't let them take my children into care. I made them take them to the grandparents.
Oh right, so they didn't go directly into foster care.
No, I called their pop.
Kidship.
Yeah, I called their pop and said you need to come get them now.
Oh right.
And he came while they were there.
Unfortunately for some, we didn't have that option.
No, in your case
lucky,
it's a little bit different.
Lucky if you have parents, if that was the case, it would be a different story again.
Not my parents, they were my Stephen's grandparents.
Oh, right.
So great grandparents to my children.
Yeah,
so
family. At least it's
and
family.
that was definitely only going to be a short time because they're elderly and taking 3 children.
So was that always seen as an interim type measure?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, hoping that they would just come straight back to me.
Yeah.
Go there for a few nights, come back to mum. Well,
and that's what Frank was saying.
They tell you it's a sleepover. Meanwhile, your kids are having a hissy hysterical fits where they're at the point of having a heart attack.
So is there a point where you get where you come to the realisation that maybe it's going to be a bit longer than anticipated? Like, is there a moment where you start to think, well, this isn't going to resolve itself in a couple of days, it's going to take a bit longer?
Well, yeah, you do realise that because you ask the questions and answers aren't coming back. You get fobbed off like, oh, we're not sure, we'll let you know. It just goes for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I think it's once you get the report and you read the bullshit that you put in the report, they put in the report, you know, what's true, what's not, and then once you read that,
you would start doubting yourself.
You wonder.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. So because that always interests me too when people are confronted by this version of them, somebody else's version of who they are, you know. And I mean, can you remember your responses also to that and how you responded to that?
I didn't respond to that very well. I couldn't believe what they'd written about me, to be quite frank with you. They were wrong.
And they were attacking you.
They were.
Attacking you personally.
They were just so far off it wasn't funny. And when I confronted the social worker and said, what the hell have you written? Basically, he said, oh, well, we just read from what's the files. 6 or 7 people put this together and that's what we produced. And that came from his mouth.
Is there a sense
it's
to...
their interpretation of you.
That's right. And my understanding of that is too that somehow those obscure versions of you are given to you by people you may or may not know, becomes kind of fact.
Yeah.
Doesn't it sort of generate itself into fact?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that becomes who you are to them.
Yes.
Which is to be said. So I guess that's the real negative side of having kids taken into care. But you get to a point, I think, don't you, where you then have to do the negotiating with the department. And I'm just wondering, if Stacey, can you remember what that was like for
My
you?
issue was I consumed myself in that report and consumed myself with trying to prove myself that wasn't me. And I just kept arguing with them that...
And that's what they didn't like.
Yeah, and that's what I did. And that's where I just kept getting nowhere. I just kept getting roadblocks. The lawyer I had was just stupid, Ed. And basically said, accept the order, the 12-month order. And that's when things went, you know, for me, like, well... I'm not getting them back. Like, if I have to accept this order now, no, you need to address this. Why do I need to address things which didn't happen? So it just kept. It was this vicious circle for me. It's just.
Yeah.
It was,
Did you? How do you deal with that internally then? I mean, because one of the issues is around anger, and you know we can understand why people feel angry, can't we? Because this is a very emotive issue to start with, and secondly, how do you find ways eventually to curb that or understand that or to modify?
Eventually, yes, but it took a lot of wrongdoing to get to.
Right.
And unfortunately, all that wrongdoing
Has affected it.
and they just kept making more and more judgment.
So this is one of the important lessons, I reckon. It's really hard trying to convince people when your kids have just been removed and it's so emotive that you can't afford to be angry with them, because how can you remember the interpretations they had of you?
Probably crazy.
Yeah.
Literally.
Is that? Do you agree with that?
But being crazy doesn't.
So does that?
That your mental health, basically that you had unstable mental health is what they used.
All right. So
in their words, crazy. Yes, unstable mental health.
And does some of that behaviour verify their version of you?
It did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, at
that time,
yes.
not before and after. At that time of the removal,
Correct.
That's when you do go to therapy.
Not even after the removal.
For a little while.
Myself, because of the consumption of what was written in that report and how much was wrong, and how much I just kept arguing, they just thought I was unstable.
All right. So you're a bad mum to start with, and now you've become an unstable bad mum.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
So less chance. So it's a really what I think you're saying, and this is kind of like everybody's experience from a lot of people that Nadia and I work with, is that over a period of time, the version of who you are gets validated more and more through that behaviour, and therefore that if ever in the investigation assessment stage they were ever thinking of returning a child to you, that chance slips further and further away.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then eventually you get, of course, to that point whereby, well, it's a 12-month order or it's a GOM 18, depending on how extreme you kind of become in that period. So given that you can reflect on that, and I'm not suggesting that, I appreciate your honesty, guys, about how you were when that happened. What, if you look back though, and you want to advise these people that we're talking to now about how best to navigate this system, what sort of suggestions would you give given your own experiences?
You know, it's anything. I know people will still get angry, but try to see it from this perspective. Keep your head tied in, and then try to gather your thoughts a bit better the next day, and then work out what to do. Stays going off at it at the time because it only gives them the false perception, as you say.
Was there any support though? I mean, were you on your own basically around all of this?
Yes, and my huge suggestion would be don't say anything. Go straight to a lawyer.
Oh right.
Don't say a word. Go straight to a lawyer.
Find one if you can. Anyway.
Yeah, just do that. Go through it with your lawyer. See what's, what they have evidence and what they don't. What's real, what's not. What you might need to work on. Take it to court and own up to what you need to do to fix it, and don't make excuses for bad behaviour.
Oh, great!
That's
fabulous.
Don't be emotional with your kids.
Yeah,
because you bring them into the world, you're supposed to just let them walk away.
Yeah, and I think sometimes too. That's a fabulous point, Stace, because sometimes we need to accept that under those circumstances, as justified as we think that behaviour may be, we still might need to say, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you an F and whatever."
Yeah.
Because it is about. I mean, I think it is about, like, if we look at developing a relationship. So you're endeavouring to develop a relationship, even under these very trying circumstances. When you look at what sort of relationship you would have liked to have developed with these workers from the department, can you identify how you could have done that? What you perhaps could have done differently?
That all depends on the worker that
Exactly.
you have.
Oh.
We're talking about DCP here, and you've got some good workers, you've got some just shouldn't be in the system workers. I unfortunately got stuck with them. And up until probably recently with my eldest, I've actually had some
Could you turn the speakers off, mate? Because they're echoing.
really, really good workers. Previous to that, and even getting my 5-year-old back, I had a great worker then as well. But the other workers in between, there was no reasoning. It didn't matter what you did right, you were always wrong. So it depends. It depends on the character and how that person interprets you.
How do you navigate through that then? If you've got
Go
to
to
work
the supervisor.
Okay, good suggestion. Fabulous suggestion.
Go straight up, but just go straight above them every day. You call them every day. You say, "I do not want to deal with the social worker. I will deal with you." Be firm. Explain why you can't deal with the social worker. You'll be surprised. Sometimes you get lucky with the supervisor, and they'll actually listen.
And sometimes I think what people don't realise is that if you've done that, there's a good chance someone else might have done it as well.
Yeah.
And the more people that do it, to make those sort of complaints about the worker that they're working with, if it's an uncomfortable relationship, then the more likely that worker will get moved on, and then hopefully you'll find.
And remember, there's the supervisor and then the manager. So if your supervisor is really good friends with your social worker, then that's not going to work. You know what? Take it higher again. Go to the manager.
Well, we found that the supervisor we had before the children were taken to their 18 order, he was worse than the social worker. Absolutely worse.
Yeah.
And you know what? He doesn't even. Looks like they don't even exist in the department anymore. Obviously, they've got rid of him.
Yeah. Oh, I know who you're talking.
So in the meantime, we should have just gone straight to the manager. But he's not in. So we had the acting manager. That's just as bad.
That was a victory for the good guys. I want people to know that.
It's just a matter of calling every day. If you're not getting what you want, or you're not getting
the answers.
Then you hassle them. You be that parent who they just go, "Oh my God, they're calling again." Because then that's showing you're a parent, really. You're not giving up on your kid, you're going to keep fighting.
It's the parents that don't ring up and just say, "Okay."
That's right.
Don't
accept no for an answer if it's not the answer you want.
Can we understand, though, that some people may be so overwhelmed that they just haven't got the
fight?
Yeah, that's it.
Then ring you.
Yeah.
Get them to ring you.
Ring us. And because I think that's the other thing, too, that if they... our frustration is that, we get people who might ring us today and they say, "I'm going to court next week." And we're saying, well, what do you want us to do? It's right at that beginning, isn't it? That beginning stage that we can work on.
None of our stuff wasn't told to us till like halfway through the orders. And we only find these things out as we were going through, because we were getting told this in like therapy, through GPs refer us to counselling, and the counsellor say, "Oh yeah, this is a party. Try this guy." Oh, great. Okay.
Well-
5 minutes before you go, as you say, ready to go to
Yeah,
court.
unfortunately,
Otherwise,
I
it goes straight to an 18. You missed out the 12 months before.
didn't connect with Tony until
It
basically.
was too late.
Yeah,
But no, the thing about Stacey though, Stacey's one of those parents who, like, I would not want to get into a fight with this woman. I can tell you right now, because you are dogged, aren't you?
Yeah.
And don't give up.
Yeah.
She's
No.
stubborn.
no.
Stubborn.
Yeah.
That's good.
They're my children, and if you're not going to take care of them as well as I can, then you damn well ain't going to have them.
We've got your daughter. We've got your daughter here. I don't know whether she's going. Yes, that's mum, or no, that's not mum.
She says.
Yeah, that's mum.
My daughter.
Yeah, and I think there's some truth in that as well. So the advice that you would give would be to try and remain calm where you can, negotiate your position as best as you can. If you have a complaint about the social worker, take it up and just keep peppering them.
And don't leave it though. Don't wait until you've got like this list of complaints. Just from the beginning, do it from the start.
Yeah. So when you get to that point where though, as we go through this process, what is, and you've calmed down and you've understand the system, what then is the most difficult place to be? Is it going to court? Is it approaching the end of an order? Is it, like, what's the next stage that's the most testing?
The most testing stage is seeing the kids without showing emotion while they're there, and trying not to say too much so they don't get upset.
So the access stage.
The access at the start, where you get to see them, trying to reassure them that everything's okay. What do they need? Do they want to get, or do they turn around and say, "Oh, we want to go home"?
All
Oh,
right.
you can't, we've got to work on it. You more or less feed your children lies just to keep them calm,
Yeah.
which is part of the traumatising, getting trauma thing, and then the kids are at risk of initially. So you just got to sugarcoat things and try to talk to the workers before and after, but that doesn't always happen.
And I often wonder too, what's it like for a kid who has the expectation that mums and dad are going to take me home, and then not to be taken home?
Well,
it's
that puts it back to stress on them.
Well, it's like you rely on your parents to do that sort of
save you.
stuff and to keep you safe from environments that you don't like or you feel uncomfortable in, and then the parents can't do that. So how does that impact the child's relationship with the parent? And I wonder whether the department ever thinks about that.
We find the children at the start were, like, every time we had access, they'd cling on to you as soon as they get there, and towards the end they'd cling on to you again because they didn't want to go.
Yeah.
They knew that they were safe with mum and dad, so they must have a fear of going back to wherever they're not safe enough,
Yeah.
or they're not getting what they need, or it's not the same as a home environment,
No, well, it isn't, is it, for these kids? I mean, depending on what that, we're hoping that, if kids are taken from violent and abusive relationships, then they are a bit safer in these places and perhaps they're a bit calmer. But they do have an allegiance to their parents, regardless of how their parents have behaved. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And then they're placed with often if they're in residential care, they're placed with a host of other people that are rotating in and out of their lives like crazy. And okay, so before we move on around that subject, is there anything else that you can think of in terms of how you deal with this system? What is helpful? What is unhelpful?
Cool, Tony.
if you know about it.
Yeah.
Maybe after next year you'll be more popular as a...
Well,
as
federal
a
election, folks.
Child
We'll
Protection Party.
be streaming direct from. I just come. I just realised Nadia just tried to call me or sent me a message. I guess the next thing though is to think about when your kids. When I know your kids have come home generally. Can you talk a little bit about the fight, the efforts you've put in for that to happen, and then eventually having it happen, Stace? What's that been like?
A fight. Just it's not over. It's never over. Even when you got your kids home.
They'll still watch it.
Yeah.
Till they're 18, 21, whatever. And they'll use it against their kids.
Your child has to say the wrong thing at school, notification gets made, disappear on doorstep. Yeah. It's not over. It's never over. You always got someone looking over your shoulder. You always second guess your parenting. You always, it's not over.
Just because it was finished doesn't mean it's finished.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do you mind just talking a little bit about your care experience? And because I think that puts your experience into an interesting context. And I know there are a lot of people out there who have had a care experience that are now parents. I'm just wondering if you could just offer some sort of advice, maybe, or suggestions for those people about how to confront this system if ever they're confronted with it.
As a godchild, or
Well, as a
Parent who's
godchild who's now a parent, and because there's a unique set of fears I think about it. It's like the best analogy I can give is working with Indigenous people who think of welfare as certainly the enemy, given what welfare has done to them, you know. And I think Gom kids who are now adults may have the same idea. You can either confirm or deny that,
well,
Stace.
I think that your biggest fear is becoming a parent as a godchild is that they're going to take your child away. That was always my biggest fear.
Oh, really?
So when they did come in and remove my kids and then took my partner as well and left me just sort of standing there on my own, well, all my worst nightmare had come to life like that. Hence my breakdown and my lost it.
Do you think they understood that? Do you think?
No, they didn't care. They did, whether they understood it or not, they didn't care.
Well, they were focused on the children.
That's what they
Supposedly.
said. But you know, like there's evidence to prove otherwise on that one too. You know that basically, you know, I had no one to parent me, so I couldn't be a parent. Was something that they used against me a lot.
Yeah.
Which frustrated me to no end because I actually had a wonderful foster mother to begin with, and she instilled some wonderful morals into me. And I still talk to her now, and you know, if I have a meltdown, you know, I want my mummy. That's who I call. And she still gives me great advice. And
does she?
yeah,
Oh, how
so
lovely.
you know, to tell me that I didn't have that is ridiculous. And then even after that foster placement breakdown, I actually struck it lucky and got some really good social workers. And I mean, you know, they probably would say I was overbearing and a pain in the bum and whatever else, and I probably was as well. No, you know, not probably, I was. But they still fought for me, and they still made sure that I was okay in that sense.
Yeah.
So to say that I didn't know or had no one to teach me how to parent was wrong. These people were wonderful role models, and I think they taught me a lot growing up. So that was.
And how were you as a kid
I was
in
not
that
nice.
system?
I was not nice.
Something else was about to exude from her mouth then.
I was not nice. I was angry with the system. I was just very angry girl. I was in resi care units. I was around. You know what? I was probably a bad influence in the resi care units. Can't even blame anyone else for that. I think everyone followed me, so therefore anything happened, well, you know.
But that was how you survived, I guess.
Well, it was how I survived. You made money where you can make money because they didn't just give you money. You wanted to smoke, she wanted your alcohol, you know, whether it was a teenager or not. That's how I drowned my sorrows, drugs, alcohol, you know, so you did what you had to do, whether that was crime, whether you were doing the wrong thing or not. It's just what you did to get through.
So that, if you come back, Stace, to that moment where you were left there standing alone, kids gone, partner gone, do you relate that to any other moment in your life as well? That sense of being isolated, alone, no one caring about you?
Basically, from when I left my foster mum
Yeah.
till I was 18.
Really?
So, I mean, like I said, I had wonderful social workers and, you know, at 9 to 5 they were there, but...
Yeah, that was it. After that, was,
yeah,
no
that's
real
it,
connection.
yeah, that's it.
More or less put to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. That was lovely. She's an amazing woman. Absolutely amazing woman. You're an amazing man. I want you to know that. So, Avery, are there any questions or any statements over there that we could reflect on as well?
There are. We've had a statement from Amy Davis, came in very early and said that listening to you was, you know, that her experience of listening to you was really scary. And she said she then later said that she was getting really emotional listening to what you were going through in particular, Stacey, because she went through the same sort of crap.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks, Avery. Could we just cover that for a second? So we just want people to marvel at our technology instead, because we can now have 2 cameras on and Avery can be seen, and he's pretty excited about that. The idea is that, look, if you do find that any of the conversations that we have are distressful in any way, you can call Lifeline. What's it, 131444? I forget, or is that the police number?
That's the police.
Don't call the police. Look up Lifeline. I should have had that here. We'll put it on our Facebook page, and I'll put my number up and Nadia's number up as well, so that later on you can give us a call if anybody feels distressed.
There's also a support page.
And there's our support page.
Yeah.
Yes. Avery, can you make mention of that?
Yeah, we've got the Child Protection Party support group, which is a private group that people can go on there and safely discuss the issues that they're going through.
Yeah.
Nothing in there. We're only letting people who are actually going through the system join the group. We want to filter out the social workers themselves,
Or the trolls.
We want to filter out the trolls.
Sorry, I didn't mean to refer to social workers as trolls, Avery.
No, I realise I declined a request just today from this person who, when I checked his other posts, he had been trolling people. So I declined him. I've got a question if I can, and that's from something that Frank said right at the beginning about the trauma that not only the kids go through, but the parents. The question is, how does it affect your relationship with your partner?
It stresses you both to the maximum.
Yeah,
Because you both doubt each other, blaming each other. Yeah, no one's to blame. It's the people that make the so-called notifications that you need to blame. Yeah. Especially when you're looking at the so-called notifications, why the kids are taken.
That's trying to catch up.
Yeah, I know. Can you put up there? Just type into the Lifeline number is 131114, not 444. 131114. We have a wonderful young woman in here today who's helping us with our texts and messages and stuff. Does that back. Okay, so if you do have an issue and you need to talk to us, that's why we're here. We're just not going to let you hang out there and dry and sort of be left alone. So please do contact us if need be, or contact Lifeline, and you could punch in my telephone number.
I'll do that shortly.
Do this right, okay.
We do have another question.
Yep, go for it.
The question is, was how did your experience change when an advocate became involved?
We seem to get a few more answers, a lot more answers. Yeah, and the fact that someone does care, being an ex-social worker themselves, still acting as a social worker for us, but for their perspective on how the system works and what we need to do to address it all, so we can help.
And we don't have, as an advocate, Nadia and I certainly don't have all the answers, but we do actually understand the system pretty well. And we do work at trying to build, as difficult as this might seem to believe, but we do try to build the best relationships we can with the social workers that we work with. And sometimes those relationships are quite valuable because we can actually put the client's perspective forward. And also we have noticed, clients notice, that when an advocate is present, the department often acts differently.
Actually count out a bit.
They do, and mainly because it makes them transparent, it makes them accountable for any of the things that they might say or do. So
I think for the parent to feel supported
absolutely,
as well as the
because
thing.
You're fighting the system you know nothing about.
But just remember, no one's a better advocate for your child than you. You want an advocate for you.
Yeah, the thing is, you don't
to
have
help
a level
navigate
playing
the
field
system,
either.
to help
You don't have
navigate the
that
system.
level playing field. That's why you need an advocate. So
That's right. You need the advocate for you, but to advocate for your child,
as well
you are the best advocate.
I think Stacey is a fabulous advocate for her, but not everybody's a Stacey, and not everybody's a Frank. But sometimes you do need just that additional support. And something I was going to say, but it's now gone. Avery, is there anything else there that we need to talk about?
There's plenty up here. Just a comment from Charlene Hacker. She confirmed something that Stacey said, and that is if you have problems with your social worker, go to the team lead. If you have problems with the team lead, move it up the chain.
Yep.
The question has come through saying, has the department offered support services to help your children adjust to life back home, but also the trauma of being removed?
To our knowledge, no.
But Stacey, because your kids are home, has the department offered any support around you once your kids came home?
Only very briefly. There was a support program through Anglicare put in place. However, they didn't really feel the need to be there too long, so they closed the case up and off they went.
Was that a reunification type program?
Yes.
Or? Yeah. Okay. So that was working to have the children home? Or
yes, and even after the children were home, they still stayed on for a little bit. Mind you, she didn't think it was
necessary.
Yeah, so she sort of closed the case quite quickly.
That's so can't the case more lightly.
But in all honesty, like other than being there to talk to and discussing, different parenting strategies, I can't say that the support was overwhelming.
What about where there may be counselling for a child because of the trauma they've been through?
No. Look, my children were already in, so they were already seeing camps prior to removing them from my care. So that just continued for one of my children. Didn't continue. I have 4, but the 2 of them were seeing camps. Didn't continue for the other.
What about the oldest child? How's that working out for you? In terms of there's a loaded question.
Come on, a little bit more specific. She's 15, right?
Oh, she's 15, is she? All right. Okay. And is she living with you at the moment?
She is living with me at the moment.
She is she?
Mm.
Oh, right. Is she a GOM kid? Or
she's an 18 GOM kid.
She's an 18 GOM kid, and she's only 15.
Mm.
Should she be a 15 GOM
kid?
Oh dear. And so because the child is the parent still is the government, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Her parent is the government. Mm-hmm. And what's she doing with your place?
It's
a bit confusing,
isn't
it?
You're doing a job for him.
Yeah. Well, send her back.
Send her back. We'll pay them nothing. We can have a kid back.
I still can't answer that question, and I don't bother to try and answer it. I've got a home, and I'll just leave it at that.
I know, but there becomes an issue though, doesn't there? Like, if a child is living in your home because the department has said that child could be living in your home, yet they don't relinquish or revoke an order around them. My guess is that creates some financial stress and strain because you're not able to receive any benefits for this child that technically isn't yours. How does that work? That is bizarre.
She's my child. It doesn't matter.
I know, and I know this child. I think she's one of the most wonderful young 15-year-olds on this planet. She is fabulous, and she's with us tonight, and that's why I can say that because she's exceptional.
Maybe the department could learn from her.
Well, maybe the department could learn some really interesting lessons by just listening to people like her.
Open your ears, not
kids. Hey,
that's what's the most funny part. They're more ignorant than you are. They're more ignorant than the person they're talking about.
No, that's true.
We're the department.
That's true, but how can we have a system whereby you can say it's okay for the kid to live with the parent, you don't revoke or relinquish the order, but you still continue, and you don't offer payments to the parent who's now doing your job?
And still get paid to do it.
It's just, I'm sorry, I just am incredulous that this could even
happen. Look at that this way, the carers are still getting paid to care for your kids. The carers they had before are still paid to look after kids, but they're not there.
That's right. But
so that's wasted of
or in all honesty,
resources.
like I said, I just, as long as my child's home, I don't care.
Oh, it's she's wonderful taken
that care
she's
of.
Home.
She's being taken care of. She's happy. She's supported.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
And she's smart.
Sometimes.
Just think one day she'll be going up to your backside when you're older. So don't turn
she'll be changing your name. I think that's. Does she want to say? Do you want to say something? Or
she wants me to say she feels safe.
Good. Yeah. And
she probably was safe before that.
Before that,
I don't think so.
She was safe before she left my care. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. She was safe before she left.
Yeah.
And she was, yeah, she's saying she wasn't safe in care.
She wasn't safe in
Good
care.
build at home.
And we will, hopefully we'll be having a conversation with that particular person in question, which we'll be recording and we'll put up by the end of the week, hopefully. Anything else, Avery, that people have raised? That...
Yeah, well, first off, we've got a comment from somebody near and dear to our heart. We're showing off with our knowledge of technology.
Oh, that was Nadia. Right, okay. Yeah, but I hope you're impressed, Nadia, because this is a step in the right direction. We haven't fallen over a microphone. We haven't knocked over a camera. Stacey's only sworn once. Now that in itself needs to be recognised as kind of a record, I reckon.
Yep.
And you know, Frank has sat here and just said what he needed to say, you know, without doing what he normally does. Which is just big on No, not at all. Frank's fabulous. Anything else?
Yeah, we've got a question for Stacey again.
Yep.
You said you had very good foster carers. So the question is, can you explain why you're so angry with the system?
Because that placement broke down, and then I was left with no one, nothing. I was moved from country to Adelaide, moved from foster home to foster home for I think, well, for years until I hit the resi care units. So from about 11 to 15, and then that was countless number of foster homes.
Did you realise, before you said how angry you were, did you realise why you were so angry at the time, or was it just about you being angry?
There were small things that I knew, you know, like I had friends in school who had Christmas, had Easter, had good clothes, had shoes, had you know, all the things which they had a loving family basically, and they would.
You felt second rate.
Yeah, you know, that they'd complain about their mum being a butthead for not doing something, and you just think, well, I don't have a mum.
Well,
yeah,
you respect the mother you got at least.
That's right.
No parent's perfect.
That was one reason. Another reason, kids in school knew I was a foster kid, and that.
Were you stigmatised because of that?
I just ended up in the wrong crowd because of that.
Oh,
it happens now.
So, that led me on the wrong path also. So there's lots of reasons why I was angry, but you know, at that time it was the real trivial reasons that I knew about, and that, you know, now being an adult, you know, reflecting on it, there are 100 million reasons why I was angry. You know, I needed something. I needed to talk to someone at, you know, God knows what hour of the morning, and there was no one there because social workers finished 5 o'clock. You can't talk to a social worker.
Exactly.
The resi care unit people were just like...
They're just glorified babysitters.
Yep, they didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
You're lucky to get some good workers, and it was great when they were on, but they weren't on all the time, so...
So just one final question about this. It's always intrigued me. Is how did you feel loved? How did you know what loved even looked like?
Because I still had my foster mum, even though I didn't live with her. I still.
Yeah,
you can call
that's
her.
the most
She's
lovely
still my
story.
mum.
Yeah.
Even though she wasn't in the sense there.
I mean, there were times that we didn't talk for ages, but you'd pick up the phone again, and she was still your mum. She was still telling you off. She was still, you know, well, that's not the right way to act, and you know, so that still gave me.
So
that
she was sort of like
a
balance for you somehow, or
period of time.
And I think that's worth noting that, you know, I have a great deal of admiration. I know some foster parents stuff up big time. I guess everybody does everywhere. You know, some professions, but there are some fabulous foster parents out there. There really are, and you were fortunate to have one.
Yes.
And as opposed to a lot of them where they didn't. A lot of kids wouldn't have got the same sort of care and love, I guess, that you got. Well, at least respect.
One-on-one.
Yeah.
Bit of one-on-one care.
Yeah.
Not 1-on-10.
One more before we finish, Avery, if there's anything there.
We've got Rebecca Gabel, I hope I pronounced it correctly. She's got 2 kids that she's trying to get back into her care, and one that she's trying to arrange to get a shared custody. But other than that, no other comments or questions.
Okay, well, I don't know where Rebecca comes from, so Rebecca, you can contact us through, message us is probably the best way on our Child Protection Facebook page. So just message us with the issues. What we basically need to have is where you are, names, if you want us to help you, names and ages of the kids, when they went into care, how long they are in care, and what orders are currently in place for your kids, and then we could start from there, and we'll contact you, phone you, and have a conversation with you about it.
We've actually got two more comments have come in. One is Karen Backsky.
That's got a lovely woman,
sorry about
fabulous woman.
Still trying to get their children back home with them.
Right, okay, well, I'll have to have a conversation with the father about that, but we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
And Jasmine Smith, I'll have to turn away to read it, so they can also get a bald patch as well.
That's
the
true, they can.
DCP psychological evaluation came back, and the recommendations are reasonable. DCP social worker said I need to see a psychiatrist, despite the psychologist not recommending that she consults a psychiatrist. What do you guys recommend?
Sorry, that was a bit heavy for me
Okay.
at the time of night. Could you break it down?
DCP said, she said that the DCP psychological evaluation came back. I presume that's about Jasmine.
Yeah.
The recommendations that they made are reasonable.
Yep.
The DCP social worker said that she needs to see a psychiatrist, despite the fact that the psychologists are not recommending that she see a psychiatrist. And what she wants to know is, what would you recommend?
Oh, look, what happens with the department is that they seem to believe that if they how can I word it? If they can find a way to label you, to give you a diagnosis, it helps them to justify any decisions that they may make in terms of you not having the children back. Remember that the way the department works is about risk aversion. So they're interested in not making a mistake. So instead of saying I have a crystal ball, if I had this crystal ball, I'll be able to see how this parent would be in the future. They say I have a crystal ball, and based on everything I know about this parent in the past, my crystal ball will tell me that this is the way the parent's going to be in the future, based on their past. And so by sending you to a psychiatrist, they're trying to offer a label. However, I did have a client referred to a psychiatrist a month or so ago, and the report came back 2 weeks ago, and it was with a psychiatrist I don't trust. But believe it or not, he came back with a relatively standard report. So it came back relatively positive. And my version of a positive psychiatric report is that they've determined they're at least not going to section this person. So it was relatively sound, and the department accepted it and didn't give any ammunition for the department to attack this woman. In fact, some of the diagnoses which she was labelled with some years before, this particular psychiatrist said she no longer had. So it was positive in that regard. I wouldn't dismiss psychiatric assessments entirely, but I would suggest that we look for a psychiatrist or a psychologist that could do an assessment independent of the department, and we have such people at hand. I don't trust normally the psychologists within the department, primarily because they read a report, they take on the version that report has of a person, and as we talked earlier in this session, is not necessarily who that person is.
Exactly.
You end up defending yourself.
Yeah, so we need a clean slate. Even though if a psychologist is being assigned to do an assessment based on with a client, if the department's paying for it, they will send all the information over to the psychologist as they would to a psychiatrist. But hopefully the person that you're working with is a little bit more liberal and perhaps can see through the dust and the bullshit and realise that there might be a different version of this person. So it's fraught with danger, I think, if you go to a psychiatrist, but it's not always a bad outcome either.
We've got one more that's come through. I think we should probably make this the last
Yeah,
one.
that's one. Yeah.
And that's Donna Gay is asking how she can get her grandchildren back.
Well, I suggest to anybody that would like to have conversations about what it is that you can do, you need to message us or contact us via phone, or contact Avery and he can pass the message on to us. But it's also really important to realise one thing. We don't have a magic wand, and we can give you practical ideas, and the ideas that we give you and the work we do with you will always depend on where the child is in terms of the order and the circumstances around it. Because there's one key factor that everybody needs to understand, is that even though we're working with the parent, it is about the children that is what is most important to us. So we will never ever recommend that a child be returned back to a parent where a parent has failed to meet the risk factors identified by the department, if we deem those risk factors to be true. I hope everybody's clear with that. This is never, the department thinks that because we work with the parents, that we're always on the parent side. We're always on the parent side in terms of giving them a voice, no matter who they are, and no matter how angry they are, and no matter how badly they act in front of the department, you know. And there are times I felt really sad for some of the department workers, hearing how some people have gone off at them. But at the end of the day, it's always about the kids, always. So I'd just like to say thank you, Avery, for producing this effort. You were amazing.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank Frank for your contribution, mate. Could be, so this is your second time around. I hope
Third time lucky.
every week. Third time might work out really well. Every week we put this show together. So tune in somewhere between, I don't know, we were a bit later tonight, weren't we? But tune in somewhere between 7 and 7:30, and we'll kick off. Every week there'll be a subject. I hope Stace can come back. Can you come back again?
I can always try. I'd
Yes,
love
you can.
to say
She's got
yes, I can be here every week, but I do have 4 children at home, and I do. I do my
husband works with a really solid
12-hour
job,
shifts,
and
so I will
he
do
may
my
not be
utmost
terrific.
best.
But it'd be lovely to have Stacey. Jodie apologises for not being here, so I'm hoping that Jodie can be here next week. She's great value as well. So we try to get 3 or 4 of us together. But there will be a subject next week, which will be something that will be of interest to you, which will be a policy type subject, I think, Avery, that we can have a chat about what that should look like. So thank you very much for being with us, and hope you have a good night. Stop it on that one, mate.